everyone, Mark Thomas here. Let's talk about understanding the digital trust hierarchy, which is part of the ISACA's DTEF. You might know DTEF as the Digital Trust Ecosystem Framework. You may not know anything about it now, but here in the next few minutes, you certainly are. Anytime you go to the news, all you see is information about digital trust. Everybody has a definition. Many people have frameworks, but I'm going to talk to you about one framework in particular, which is ISACA's framework on digital trust. Let's break that down a little bit for you. If you go out to the ISACA site, there's been a lot of research on digital trust, but this presentation focuses on one specific part of that research that's been released by ISACA, and more information you can get on ISACA.org. I will tell you that being part of the digital trust team, it took us days to come up with this definition of digital trust. A couple things I want to point out to you real quick. Notice the keywords integrity of the relationships, interactions, and transactions. Remember, digital trust is not always about financial transactions. It could be about relationships and interactions. We also have providers and consumers. A provider is an organization that's providing services or products a consumer is consuming those, and they could be a customer, consumer, user, and so on. And then we talk digital ecosystem. That ecosystem is a system of multiple systems, but we're putting together the ability of people, organizations, processes, information, and technology to create that digital trusted world. Now, you know that ISACA every year does the State of Digital Trust. The latest one came out recently, and we're seeing that the consequences of consumers mistrusting enterprises can include things like the loss of customers, regulatory fines and sanctions, displeased shareholders, anxious employees, and more. Without a solid foundation of digital trust, recovering from these problems will prove to be much more costly financially and in terms of time and energy. For more highlights and insights into digital trust, go take a look at the State of Digital Trust. In this case, we've got the 2024 report out on the ISACA website. Let's jump in to digital trust from ISACA's viewpoint. Now, the digital trust network, there's a lot of parts of this. We have relationship mediums, we have relationships, we have ethics, reputation, and privacy, we have stakeholders, and finally, we have what are called activities. This is what I'm going to be focusing on in this short course. In these activities, we have what I call my pyramids. Of course, we have the hierarchy. If you take a look at the hierarchy, think of this as levels of digital trust. We'll talk in a minute about my suggestions on how to use these, but we have user avoid, necessity, vulnerability-based, experience and confidence, established and valued. Each level within this digital trust hierarchy has a corresponding level of digital trust activities that we're going to talk about a little bit later in this course. These activities describe collaboration levels between stakeholders in a digital-enabled environment, and there are 5 levels of digital trust activities that build on each other as seen here in this hierarchy. Now, the evolution of these digital trust activities grows in significance as you move from layer 1 through layer 5. For example, at level 1, a consumer may choose to simply have a login or profile on a website. As they progress up the hierarchy towards layer 5, the trusted connection increases as they become more comfortable and trustworthy in their dealings with their providers. Now, in layer 5, there's a level of trust that facilitates transactions that might include sensitive, private, or financial information. In other words, as a level of trust increases, for example, the more depth the activity has, the more trust it requires. Now let's take a look at each one of these levels next. Down at level 1, you'll notice on the hierarchy, it's user avoid. On the activities, we're talking about having a digital behavior or digital identity. Think about my mom in this case, my late mother. My mother would not have a digital identity if she could help it. She would not sign up for any websites. She did not use credit cards. She used cash or checks for everything. She chose to avoid all digital interactions. But unfortunately, she couldn't avoid anything. So at this level, it's the decision of the stakeholder to use or avoid. On the next level, we have the necessity of the digital trust hierarchy, where stakeholders leverage that digital platform to complete tasks of the digital activities, linking users' behaviors to standard collaboration tools. This is a connection only. So an example here is, say, I need to have a username and a login with an organization in order to get emails from them. On the next level, we have vulnerability-based, which is aligned with digital communication. These may help us look at, do we want to use this technology to communicate, and do we want to share information? An example here is sharing PII to be able to maintain my account with that organization. Next, we have experience and confidence, which is aligned with digital interaction. This is engagement online. We're looking to perform a specific action online. For example, requesting an infrequent purchase or transfer information, like purchasing an ebook, for example. And then finally, at the very top of this is we have an established and valued relationship where we do digital transactions. This means that you completely trust this organization and you're comfortable with them having information about you to help with further purchases and interactions. An example here might be with your bank, where you use full banking services. Next, I want to share with you how both digital consumers and providers see each one of these levels of digital activities. So I've broken these activities down into consumer and provider concerns. Over on the left-hand side, down at the bottom, if we have a digital identity or behavior, the question as a consumer is, do I trust the technology enough to have a relationship with that organization? Do I want that username and password? Once we move to the connection level, what should I be doing to protect my information and my privacy? When we move up, am I confident enough to share that information with the provider? Do I trust this provider enough to conduct personal or sensitive transactions? And then finally, once you have my trust, I'm asking, what other digital options do I have to achieve my goals? From your perspective or the provider's perspective, can you positively influence my decision to have a digital relationship? Do you have the ability to protect the confidentiality, integrity, availability, and privacy of me? What safeguards are in place to instill my confidence to communicate with you? How do you transition our relationship into a transaction-based agreement? And then finally, what should you be doing to continually improve our experience with each other? This is awesome stuff, but you may be asking the question, this is great information, but how do I use this model? My suggestions are, number one, using this model can help you with your product and service development. Take a look at those use cases. How do you determine and how do you build your services to make me move from a lower level to a higher level in that hierarchy? It will help you with your sales and marketing development, as well as looking at those use cases. For some customers, you may know all they want to do is have a username and password and receive emails from you. For some customers, they want your full experience. This also may be able to help you in your digital trust maturity and capability ratings. More on that in another presentation. You can develop your KPIs, your measurements. It might help your internal audit and assurance team in your auditing efforts. And this is huge. This may help you make decisions about investments on future digital transformation investments. It can help you look at your customer and consumer trust, and of course, determine the areas of the DTEF, or that digital trust ecosystem framework, that you should be considering. As you know, ISACA has a full framework on this, the digital trust ecosystem framework. You're looking at a high-level view of this ecosystem, and of course, I have other courses here to teach and explain this to you, but if not, you will know this very soon. This is broken up into nodes. Notice the large bubbles. There are 4 nodes in this DTEF model: people, process, organization, and technology, and they're all connected through things called domains. Under those, we have trust factors. That's how the DTEF model helps you as an organization look at those things that you need to be considering in order to be a trusted organization. Now, where do you find more information out on the DTEF? We'll go out to isaca.org/digital-trust. There's a lot of things out there for you. First, we have the Digital Trust Ecosystem Framework itself. This is your starting point. The framework addresses 3 traditional elements, of course, our people, process, technology, and adds that 4th critical element of organization. It incorporates detailed practices, activities, outputs, controls, KPIs, KRIs, which provide you with a comprehensive toolkit for implementation and assessment. We have the board briefing. This is a downloadable PDF that explains how the DTEF can be leveraged to create a digitally trustworthy ecosystem that considers the accountabilities and responsibilities of all enterprise stakeholders from a senior level perspective. We have the implementation guide. Again, it's an e-publication that helps organizations determine the proper approach to adopting and implementing a digital trust strategy and leveraging the DTEF. We have the short course. This is a 60-minute self-paced online course that explores digital trust concepts and the DTEF components. The interactive guide navigates you through the DTEF, the key tenets, the components, and the various interactions, and helps you understand the DTEF. This is highly interactive, meaning it's a 3-dimensional model which looks at resources, additional context, and knowledge checks, and this is ideal for visual learners. And finally, we have the Digital Trust Ecosystem Framework Foundation Certificate. This signifies expertise in integrating the digital trust practices across organizations, guiding trust-focused product strategies, and enhancing competitiveness and reputation. Let me leave you with a couple of my tips and tricks for the DTEF and looking at digital trust. Number 1, think about digital trust as an extension of security and privacy. This is not a replacement. This is an outcome of good privacy and good security. Create interaction use cases to analyze trust with your customers and consumers, which means what are those touch points you have that use digital technologies, and what can you do to increase the trust you have between you and the consumers of your product or service. Use the hierarchy that I just talked about to determine how you digitally interact. Are you my mom who says, I don't want to use any digital technology, I don't want to use a name and password? Or are you me who says, I am okay, I trust my bank to do all of my interactions and transactions with? And then finally, take a look at those publications we just talked about on digital trust. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your kind time and attention. Mark Thomas here. If you want more information on the Digital Trust Ecosystem Framework, keep an eye out on this site. I'll be providing more short courses on the DTEF and how you can use these concepts to increase the trust between your organization and your customers and consumers.